This constitutes a security hazard.
Hello, welcome. This is Jack. Hope you're having a good day. Welcome to Security Hazard Minis. These are going to be little videos, short and sweet, nice and simple, where I talk about, various bits and pieces from my collection of Jerry Anderson memorabilia, or where I do mini episode reviews or talk about mad fan theories or really anything that I fancy, really, because I have my blog, securityhazard.net, where I write about Jerry Anderson things, and I like making videos, and I want to do more of that. But some of my videos take a really long time to make, like the 6 hour long 2004 Thunderbirds movie retrospective. Well done, by the way, if you made it all the way through that. But I wanted to make little videos, so that's what I'm doing now. So these should be weekly, and enjoy them. Just enjoy them for what they are. Just little nuggets of Anderson stuff. So here we go. Today I'm going to be talking about these statues, little Thunderbirds character statues that I've had in my collection for years and years and years, and they're odd. They're very weird because they have no identifiable branding attached to them. I have all the boxes for them, but they're out. I display them out of the boxes, but the boxes are just the generic 1999 2000 blue standard issue packaging for any Thunderbirds item, but there's no indication about who actually made them, other than they've got Carlton, the Carlton logo. Carlton were the company responsible for licensing and who owned the trademark for Thunderbirds at that time. There's a logo for that on them, but otherwise there are no identifiable features whatsoever for who made these statues. And you see them kind of come up on eBay every so often. I don't think there's a huge number of them about. And these, by the way, do not confuse these with Robert Harrop. Robert Harrop is a brand that used to make lots of Supermarionation and Jerry Anderson themed little figurines and stuff, beautifully made. These are not quite of that standard. I don't think that's too cruel of a thing to say. But I have a complete collection of them, whereas, trust me, if I was trying to get a complete collection of Robert Harrop Thunderbird statues, oh boy, I would be very, very poor if I did that. Whereas these are kind of cheap and cheerful alternatives, possibly, as long as you don't mind the fact that they are mysterious. Don't know anything about them, really. So they did 12 main characters from the series, and then they did the 5 Thunderbirds vehicles as well. And as we'll see, sometimes they do quite well at capturing the likenesses, and other times they don't do so well. So we're going to dive. I'm going to go through these one by one. Maybe some of them I'll pair up. Each one has a number on the base. 372 of 10,000 in the case of Jeff Tracy here. I've looked at all the numbers on these, and not one of them is over 1,000. One of them is really, really low, but they certainly don't get up to 10,000. So I even wonder if they even made 10,000 of any of these in the end, because I feel like you don't see them that often. Not helped by the fact that they don't have a recognizable brand. So if you try and go searching on eBay for Thunderbirds figurines, it's like, well, there's no other features on them to kind of make them stand out. Anyway, this is Jeff Tracy. It looks a bit like Jeff Tracy, I suppose. They've gone for a kind of art style on these, which is kind of cartoony, not necessarily based on the TV series like Puppets very much. They've obviously kind of looked at a drawing or a piece of artwork of Jeff and kind of based it on that. And it's not too bad. They've tried to sort of recreate his costume from Trapped in the Sky with the orange kind of roll neck jumper. And it's not terrible. It's not too bad. They've all got these blue bases, which is it's nice and uniform. The lettering on them sometimes leaves a lot to be desired. This one's not too bad, but sometimes the printing of these letters can look a bit funny. But yeah, that's Jeff Tracy. If you wanted a Jeff Tracy for your collection, this one's not too bad. The texture that they've done for the fabric of the clothing is different. Probably doesn't show up on camera that well, but it's they've put some effort in to try and give different textures. Like the shoes feel different from the head and the hair and the fabric and all that sort of thing. So they've made a decent amount of effort of that. I don't know whether these are like hand painted or what exactly. I don't know the exact manufacturing method, but they're not bad. They're made of, I don't know what they're made of, but they're ceramic or plaster, or I don't think it's resin or anything like that. I've really no idea. I don't know, but it's quite nice. It's not bad. Let's take two Tracy brothers at a time here. We've got Scott and Virgil. To be honest, they don't look a lot like Scott and Virgil, do they? This is Scott if he was like a 12-year-old boy. I feel like that's the kind of look he's got going for him. I think the colouring of the uniform is pretty good, and the blue sash is not terrible. Yeah, no, he's not too bad, but it just doesn't look much like Scott. Looks like an artist's interpretation of Scott. And Virgil looks nothing like Virgil. They've gone way too dark on the hair. The yellow of the sash isn't too bad, but that face is just not. It's not Virgil. I don't know who it is. It's like the sixth Tracy brother that they keep locked in the attic that you never see. That's who he reminds me of. Yeah, not great. And they've all got the same pose, which makes me think they recycled the bodies, because all the creases on the fabric and stuff, when I look at the really, really close-up detail on these, they're all exactly the same. So I'm pretty sure they use the same bodies for all the different Tracy brothers. So that's why I'm taking them two at a time. Next up, we've got Allan and Gordon. Now, Allan, face-wise, is not too bad, actually. They've done all right. He looks close enough to that sort of baby-faced, version of Allan that we see in the TV series. Yeah, not terrible. Pretty good, actually. They've gone with a white sash for him, which is accurate enough. Sort of beige, isn't it, in the TV show? Difficult to judge, but yeah, I don't mind that one. That's pretty good. That's probably, out of all the Tracy brothers, probably the best likeness is Allan. Gordon, on the other hand, yeah, it doesn't look a lot like Gordon. Obviously, the hair color is all right, but it looks more like John, actually. If I was going to pick a face sculpt without looking at the color of the hair or anything, I would say that's John. But that's squinting my eyes quite hard to even get that far. The orange is quite good for the sash color and everything. But again, it's the same body as all of the others, so there's not a lot to say there. But yeah, it's Gordon. We didn't have quite so many Gordon figures as we did for characters like Scott and Virgil and even Allan. So to have any Gordon figure of any kind is quite a treat. So there's him. And then finally, let's look at John. Doesn't look a lot like John Tracy. What is going on with his sash color? It's like dark fuchsia, I want to say, is the color of that. It's certainly not lilac, which is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be quite a light pink, but they've gone for an almost purple. It's so pink. It's a bit too dark. The likeness doesn't look like John. Doesn't look like him. Just does not. But if you want a range of all five Tracy brothers, You don't have a lot to choose from, honestly. Well, Big Chief Studios did their figures, and you know, yeah. But anyway, they're there. They're there. They're not too bad. Now, this one's pretty good. This is Lady Penelope. They have copied pretty much exactly. There's a particular publicity photo where she wears this costume and she stands in this pose. And the reason why I recognize it is because if you look behind me, there is a Funko Pop of Lady Penelope up on that shelf, which is wearing exactly the same costume and standing in exactly the same pose, which makes me think it was just like, oh, it's Lady Penelope. Yep, that's the reference photo we use. So that's what this looks like. The hair and the likeness are actually really not too bad, actually, considering it's Penny, who isn't quite as caricatured as many of the other characters. They've actually caught her likeness really quite well. And the texture of the costume is really quite well done. The pose is a bit odd because, as you can see both on the Funko Pop and in that publicity photo, she's supposed to be holding a flower or something. And they decided not to replicate the flower when they made this statue. So she's just standing there with her hands in quite an odd pose. As you can see, the lettering on these, they've had to squeeze Lady Penelope on there quite tightly. You can barely fit the name onto the plaque, but nice that they managed it. Yeah, pretty good that one. There are much more. The thing that's annoying about Penelope is there are so many elaborate, interesting costumes to choose from. And the Robert Harrop figures, to be fair, they do a good job of that. They pick out some of her more kind of interesting clothing items. So to see her just in the pink suit is a bit kind of like, of all the ones to pick, it's kind of quite generic and not very interesting. So, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, you can't have Penelope without Parker. So here is Parker. And, Parker's quite a because it's such a caricatured face, you can't really go far wrong when it comes to sculpting him. And I think they've got a pretty good likeness there. But the color for the uniform, I'm not sure is quite right. I feel like that should be brown. But the face is so good that it's not bad. I'm glad he's holding the hat rather than wearing the hat, because I feel like if he was wearing the hat, it would look really silly. So I'm just glad he's just holding it there. I think that's nice. It gives him kind of just a different sort of a pose to the other characters. I wouldn't have minded actually if they give more of them sort of props to hold or something, so they didn't look like they were just standing there. So that's pretty good. That's Parker. Next up is Brains, who, as I say, looks like he should be holding a test tube or something. But what I really like about this one is the glasses. They haven't made them too thick or anything. They've got it just right. They don't have lenses or anything like that, but they've got the frames and everything just right. They're not too thick or anything. Again, they've gone for quite a generic costume choice, which is fine. Yeah, not a bad likeness for Brains, it has to be said. Again, it's a certain art style that that I sort of recognize. I feel like they used it on sort of lots of the merchandise. This sort of 2D cartoon images of the characters got used on a lot of merchandise from sort of 1999 and 2000. So I feel like that was the basis for a lot of these. But yeah, there you go. Not bad. Not bad from that one. Now, this next one's a real treat. This is Tintin. They really didn't do a lot of figures of Tintin or anyone like that. Like Matchbox never did a Tintin or anyone like that. So, I mean, all right, it's arguably one of the most generic figures in the whole range. It looks enough like Tintin, but I mean that's all you can really say for it. But I mean, the hair's quite nice and the costume's quite. I mean, the costume isn't based. I think it's really based on anything particular that she wears in the series. Although she does tend to favour that sort of orange coral sort of coloured outfit, I feel like. So it's sort of got hints of Tintin without being based on anything too specific. Yeah. not too bad. It's just nice to have her, basically. I remember this was one of the last ones I managed to get in the whole collection. For some reason, finding Tintin was actually quite difficult. But there you go. Next up, of course, we've got Tintin's dad, Kanano. Again, very unusual to get a Kanano. Very much based on his, typical outfit that we saw him in for much of the series. The likeness is all right. It's pretty good. The hair is quite well done. Yeah, as I say, costume's not too bad. The lettering on my one, at least, has gotten printed slightly wonky. So that's that's all right. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Pretty good. Pretty good. Nice to have a Karana. And then finally, for the characters, we have the Hood. Because of course you've got to have the baddie. And this out of all the figures is probably the best because the costume is by far the most intricately detailed. And the texture that they've got on it, if you feel it, is really, really nice. His bald head is very satisfying to just polish and touch there. But yeah, no, I really like this figure. This is really, really well done. Considering this is more of a budget, feels like anyway, a budget range of figures, they've actually done a nice job of detailing, and the paint applications are really good. All the different stripes and dots and things like that are really well painted on him. So really nice, really nice. Good. This, as I say, probably the best figure in the collection. There is one main character conspicuous by her absence, and that is Grandma Tracy. Sadly, they never made a Grandma Tracy. I looked and looked and looked. I've never ever found one. So as far as I know, it is just those 12 main characters. They never did a Grandma, which is a shame because it's like, well, you've done pretty much every regular character in there except for one. It's kind of infuriating. I mean, I can understand it. Grandma's out of all the regulars quite a minor character, but if you're going to do the whole set, why not do that one extra one? So what can you say? And also that caricatured face, I feel like would actually really work quite well in this more sort of cartoony range of figures. But never mind, we're not finished yet because we still have vehicles. And well, there's Thunderbird 1. They weren't very good at doing the vehicles, to be honest. The quality of these is not great. They feel quite flimsy, and in the areas where they should be really sort of finely detailed, they've had to go quite thick and blocky in order for it to not be too delicate. Like these wings are really kind of chunky, and they've made them quite short compared to the rest of the body. The proportions on this are just really weird. They're sort of, it feels like it's a bit too long almost. From certain angles, it doesn't look too bad, but when you pose it just like that, I mean, the idea of Thunderbird 1 being upright with its wings out, don't feel good about that. But, it's fine. But if you were going to have a statue of Thunderbird 1 or a replica of Thunderbird 1, I feel like there are better options out there, and they really just shouldn't have bothered doing the vehicles, honestly, as we'll see in a moment. But yeah, that's Thunderbird 1. Basically, the proportions are all wrong. The paint applications also on the vehicles are really kind of not up to scratch. I think with the characters, they could get away with doing a more cartoony style where the paint applications could be a lot more basic. But when it comes to the vehicles, there's nowhere to hide. Like, you've got to get all those details in, or the vehicles just don't look right. And I think in this case, like, you can see the rings around, the black rings around Thunderbird 1's nose there. Very obviously hand painted, and they're quite wobbly. Just not very good. Not very good. So that's that one. Next up, similar sort of story really. This is Thunderbird II, which they've decided, because Thunderbird II is a more sort of horizontal type of shape, they have decided to put it up on a little pole, which makes it really flimsy. I'm really worried about that falling off at some point. Yeah, it's just the rough idea of the shape is there, but it's kind of too short and stubby, and they've had to make the wings like really thick, like in order to make it kind of structurally sound. They've had to make the wings really, really thick on those, which is yeah, not great. Also, the lettering for Thunderbird II on the side there, on both sides, it just isn't very well applied, and it sort of scratches and flakes off. You can just tell that they had a hard time printing onto a curved surface like that. Also, some of the lettering here, you can't really see it on camera, but it's like bubbling, where you can tell there was just air underneath the decals when they put them on. So that's not great. And the same thing applies actually for the lettering on the base, just kind of scratchy and bubbling and not very well applied. So as far as Thunderbird II models or replicas or figurines or statues or anything go, no, don't bother with this one. It's not very good. Let's see. Next up, Thunderbird III. Oh boy. There are a few things wrong with this. Number one, it's been hotly debated whether Thunderbird III is supposed to be red or orange or somewhere in between. They have gone for red on this, and it doesn't look right. It makes the thing look like a bottle of ketchup. So that's not great. And then also the struts, I don't know what's going on there, but they've like bowed out really, really badly. So it's got this kind of, I don't know, it looks like Thunderbird 3 is sort of put on weight. It doesn't look right. It does not look right. Those struts should be straight. So they've gone for this bowed out curved thing, which really looks odd. So yeah, that's Thunderbird 3. The printing on the lettering's not terrible. There are a few off areas, but it's not too bad. Yeah. But overall, I mean, the D on Thunderbird there is wonky. The H, it's half of it's gone missing. Like, really not very well printed there. Next up, what they were thinking with this. This is Thunderbird IV. Color, not too bad. Shape, the shape is absolutely atrocious. Look how wide it is. Why have they made it like that? It's like they've obviously just taken a lump of whatever material this is made out of and then just stuck bits on, and they've said, "Well, that's Thunderbird IV." Yeah, they've sort of made it too curved. Like it should have more angles on it than that. One other problem with Thunderbird 4 in particular is the light scoop at the front is held on with some wire, like metal wire, and the ceramic or whatever it is cracked around there. So this is really loose and wobbly, and just usually sits on a wonk. You can't really do much about that. Yeah, overall, Thunderbird 4 not very impressive. Lacking in detail, like really lacking in detail on this one. The interesting thing about this is the number on this one is number 5 of 10. 5 of 10,000. I mean, it looks like it was one of the first to come out of the factory, doesn't it? Yeah, not very impressed with that. Now, of all the vehicles, this last one is actually the most impressive, and that's Thunderbird 5. Now, I'm not saying it's accurate in any way. It's not screen accurate at all. The color is totally wrong. totally wrong. But in terms of the amount of detail they've managed to work into the sculpt of this, it's actually really good, which is surprising, really, considering it's Thunderbird 5. Most of the time, that's kind of the last one that anyone worries about, and you would just think, oh well, the detailing wouldn't be so good. But they actually did a really good job of this. The shaping is not terrible. It reminds me of the movie version of Thunderbird, the Thunderbirds I'll go Thunderbird 6 model, the later sort of model, where I feel like the docking bay is just a bit chunkier. It looks all right. As I say, all the detail they managed to work into that, and all the paint applications are not bad either. Yeah, this one's really good. And this, I think, was one of the first ones that I actually bought out of this whole collection, because I was like, oh, they don't make many Thunderbird 5s. And so when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I'll get this. And that sort of started me on the road to collecting all of them. Now, you would wonder, considering I've been fairly critical of this whole collection, why did I go to the effort of collecting them all in the first place? And I'll tell you why. It's because they were quite affordable. When you compare them to something like Robert Harrop figures, which, I mean, obviously Robert Harrop don't make Super Mario Nation figures anymore, so the second-hand prices are even higher than what they used to be. But compared to that, the prices of these, if you go and look on eBay, can be quite reasonable. And I think that's because there isn't a specific brand associated with them. Like, nobody knows who made these or what company was responsible for manufacturing them, or who designed them, or anything like that. We don't know. And so I think because of that, you can kind of get quite a good price on them because you don't know what they are. So if you're aiming to fill up your shelves with random Thunderbirds tat, you can't go far wrong with these, because once you have a complete collection of them, as I do, you do kind of look at it and go, well, all right, individually they don't look that good. But taken as a whole thing, you go, okay, well, we've got most of the main characters in there, and you've got the 5 Thunderbirds vehicles in there. That's kind of a nice collection to have. So, yeah. So there you go. Thunderbirds mystery statues. Not all bad. Not all bad. And apparently that's how we're ending this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Security hazard negative.